Hi everybody, I'm just a guy and this is the Apt To Game Show. It's a show about games, the industry, and conventions that we just didn't have the money to go to. Anyway, Our first guest ever is Bryce McNally. He's a firefighter, a paramedic, and a board game designer. He's also the owner of Big Show Creations, and he'll be talking about his dexterity-style fishing game, Dice Derbi.
You betcha.
Hi Bryce, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Wow, that's a handshake. I can't follow that.
Oh, a lot of dice throwing.
Yeah. Hey, no big deal. You're the first guest ever, so no pressure. Before you got here, you were at the radio station, so tell us how your interview with a real media outlet.
So it was an interesting experience, obviously. Being on radio, being on FM radio. It's 88.1. The one is a Parkline station that is relatively new to the area, but they're very good at building the community. And so they called me up and asked me if I would do an interview, and I said, absolutely.
And that was with regards to the donation at the Spruce Grove Library.
That's actually a little bit aside from that. This one was more pro bono for them to say, we gave away a copy of the game on the radio. It'll be playing tomorrow morning on the radio show as well. And it was just a separate donation that I made to them to say, here's a copy of the game, help me get it out to the listeners. And so I went in this morning, did about a half-hour thing on the radio, and we played the game. We set it up in the radio station, and we're going to give a copy of it away to some listeners. And then the library donation was something a little separate that I did. I'm very much, I believe in philanthropy, so giving back to the community for me is an easy choice.
So when it came to the library, what made you decide that? Did you just like, hey, the Spruce Grove Library, what was the...
Without crossing too many borders, I've been fortunate enough to meet some people through my career, as we will call it, in the emergency services industry, to meet some people that have more favorable connections for me in the gaming industry. And I'm always looking for places to get the name out, to raise awareness for the name Dice Derbi and get the game out there. And for me, it was an easy no-brainer to give a copy to the library, where kids are always going and they're looking for new things and new products that hit the market. So it was an easy option for me.
Okay, enough of your admirable spirit of giving. Let's talk about the game. So
Yeah.
it looks ridiculously fun. So
Thank you.
Tell us how you got the idea. I mean, you can see that on the website, but
Yeah.
explain that a little bit more.
How we came up with the idea of it? So picture it. There was a group of us. We were all out ice fishing in northern Saskatchewan. And it was after a day on the ice. We were in the cabin that we were staying in, and we had just finished playing liar's dice or poker dice or some version thereof. And I was sitting across a table from my nephew at the other end, and I said, "Hey, toss me that dice there for a second." Then he threw it at me, and I watched it bounce down the table. And I thought for a second, and the light bulb went off in my brain. And I grabbed the coffee mug and I put it on the table. I drew a circle around it, made a little target on the table. Threw the dice back to Tyler, my nephew, and I said, "Do that again." And he threw it, and he came close to the target. And needless to say, the next several hours were spent making rules and kind of creating little ideas and whatnot for this game. And I made a vow to myself then and there that night that I would take it as far as I can go. And here I am, 2 years later, after the initial concept of it, taking it through all the different prototypes and drawings and whatnot to get it made.
Were you a big gamer before, or
Kind of a closet gamer.
yeah?
More of a traditional style gamer. I've never been big into the the D&D, the Magic, and some of the more bigger names games that I see in these cafes and stores and whatnot. But I'm a more traditional Clue, Monopoly type gamer. So for me, it was an easy creation to come up with something simple for everybody to play.
Yeah, it's that gamer spirit still inside
Yeah.
you to see something
Yeah.
beyond just guessing who did it in Clue or just roll and move in Monopoly, but you had something in there.
Traditionally simple. Keep it simple so that anybody can play it.
What lengths have you gone to promote Dice Derbi as an independent game designer? Is there a lot of selling out of your van, so to speak?
Parked in the parking lot out here. Yeah, no, absolutely. As a startup designer, it's challenging to get the name out there, and very challenging to raise awareness for it. I think when I first came to Apt To Game and I met Jason, I'm like, I'm a local guy. I got this game I want to put on your shelves, and It can be challenging, but the most rewarding part of it is not just putting the game on the shelves, but it's building a relationship with the manager, the owner, and the people that sell your game for you. Because anybody can put a product on the shelf, but it's making sure that they fill it up when the shelves are empty that makes it unique, right?
So you go to cons though and stuff like that, and
I do, yeah. So I try to go to as many trade shows and whatnot as I can. Being that it's a fishing style game, I try to go to as many fishing markets and hunting markets as I can, because that's kind of the target audience. There's a fishing aspect of the community, and then there's the gamers aspect of the community, and how you pitch it to both of them is a little unique in both regards. But
so you're making nerds of all these manly fishermen out
absolutely
there. One fisherman
bringing them down one at a
Excellent.
time.
I approve of this.
Yeah.
How was it then going to these events, like watching people play your game? Because it looks like you're allowing people to try it out and that sort of thing.
I do. The greatest way to sell something is put it in their hands. I'm fortunate enough to have a few years of sales and marketing and management behind me before I started this endeavor. And the trade shows are humbling because, you spend all this time and effort in this creation and you want people to enjoy it. And from the very first time I saw somebody pick up one of the dice and throw it down the table, and the smile that came to their face, and it was tremendously rewarding for me to just see the people, total strangers I've never met before in my life, and actually enjoy what I've done and what I've made. That's very rewarding for me.
There isn't a gamer that I've met that hasn't had some sort of idea that they think should be translated into a game.
Yeah.
So what did you do once you got that idea? What was your next move? Like, I'm going to just start cutting up cardboard and prototype, or did you?
Yeah, see, everybody at some point in their life has what they deem to be $1 million idea. However, very few people actually see it through. They'll just pass it off and say, that would be kind of cool. And that was part of the promise I made to myself is, run with it. Worst case scenario, end up with this game that you made that you have, And fortunately enough, we're in 18 different retail locations right now, and it's only been 9 months, I think, since it's been available.
What steps did you do to get it created, tested, published? Like, what was the first kind of thing you really did?
It can kind of be a logistical nightmare to make it simple. However, where there's a will, there's a way. If you've got the drive to see it through, you'll be successful every time. My first draft of Dice Derbi was 4 pieces of legal size paper with some wax crayon marking scribbles on it. And I go into my friends, I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this thing and I'm going to make this game and all this. And they're like, okay, sure, Bryce.
Right on, Bryce.
Sure, Bryce, right on. Okay, sounds good. And then it transitioned from, some sketches on paper to, this would be kind of cool. I had notes all over my office. I had whiteboards and everywhere. And my smartphone was full of just ideas and jostling little ideas that I would come up with. And it went through a lot of different builds, a lot of different versions. The first version of it was actually in a Monopoly-sized box. And it had a completely different logo than it had before. Being brand new, I don't obviously have a large access to capital to start up, so I had to do a lot of the stuff on my own. A lot of the original artwork is my design. A lot of the characters, or all the characters, are my design. And then I had to go sweet talk the bank to loan me some money to, to pay the designers, to pay the startup costs and buy the initial inventory, which can be a challenge in its own. But
yeah, I guess going to a bank and saying, hey, I want to make a cool board game.
Oh yeah, they're all behind it.
No problem.
Until you tell them you want to buy you need money for inventory, then they're like, oh.
I guess
next.
So what was it like to see that first real prototype or whatever?
Oh man, there's no way to describe it. Making my own, I took a box and I covered it with a poster paper, and it looks, pardon the pun, it looks tacky. It looks horrible. So when you finally see a printed, finished version like you see on a shelf, it's like, this is mine. This is my baby.
Yeah. And
it's very humbling and unbelievably rewarding to finally see it, and then to see people buy it is like, oh man, it's a whole new high you'll never forget.
When you were producing it, did you ever leave any card ideas and stuff on the cutting room floor, so to speak?
I have, actually, yeah. There's a lot of, I'm getting some good feedback from professional review people. Board Game Geek has recently done a review of it, and they've given me a lot of A lot of ideas. George from Board Game Geek is wonderful for, maybe you should try this, maybe you should try that. So the challenging part is not getting, too egotistical, saying, hey, that's my idea, I like it, it's good. Being approachable to say, you should try this, you should try that.
Okay, so it's a little, just be a little humble and accept.
Yeah, you've got to swallow your pride sometimes.
So any expansions kind of ideas in the future?
Absolutely.
Like card pack or some.
Yeah, the fortunate thing about Dice Derbi is it has an incredibly unique play style that you don't see in traditional games. The concept of throwing a dice at a target, through the best of my searching, has yet to be done. So it's got a very good corner of the market that way. So for expandability into other titles, without giving too much away, there is some add-ons, expansions, and whatnot in the works. That.
Oh, okay. So you're not just considering Dice Derbi, but
right.
Maybe expanding on your mechanic.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the big things that makes Dice Derbi unique is the play style, and if I can adapt that to future titles, then it's not just a game; it's a brand.
So are you working on some of these future titles right now, or are you just busy? Right. Oh, okay. Right on. Okay, so just a couple more questions here. What are you playing right now with your group?
Well, the last game I think we played at family camp was Snake Poison, some kind of card game where you're pitching different ideas to buyers, and you're making these different items from these different cards. It was a really fun game to play, a great party game. Which is kind of why I created Dice Derbi, is getting everybody together for the night and playing, hey, let's play this game, whichever. Yeah,
pick up and go.
Yeah, exactly. And that's aside from that, the last one I played was danged if I could remember the name of it, Monikers. Yeah, great game. We actually played that. We played that here one night on a Teach Me Tuesday, and yeah, it's a great game. There's not a lot of setup. Anybody can play it.
What's the first game you remember playing as a kid?
First board game ever?
Ever.
Oh, man. One of the very first board game memories I have is Life.
Life?
Yeah, with the old 3D modeled bridges and stuff on the board. Yeah, that's one of my originals.
Professor or a cop?
Oh, gee, I couldn't even remember. I just remember moving the thing around the boards. Yeah, and Mousetrap.
Oh, yeah.
Mousetrap. That was one of my first ones. Good memories, yeah.
Okay, your most important piece of office furniture?
My computer.
Yeah?
Absolutely. That thing has taken me from concept to creation 100 times over. I'm fortunate enough to have a very nice setup with my Mac and my triple screen setup, and it's helped me a lot. Most important piece, hands down, for editing, for designing, for anything it's a digital technological age, right? So having a good computer is just pivotal.
Last question, are you hiring?
Am I hiring?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm always on the look for new talent. Yeah, off camera. Am I hiring? Currently, everything that is Dice Derbi exists because of me. However, that being said, I wouldn't be anywhere without the fan base, without the support of everybody that I've met in the last year, having done this. Eventually, someday, maybe Derby Games Incorporated will take on some people.
Where can we see you next?
Next thing coming up is the Edmonton Entertainment Expo, which I believe is September 20th, 13th, around there, in a couple weeks' time, at the Northlands grounds here in Edmonton. Big comic entertainment expo. Dice Derbi will be there.
And any final? You have the last word here.
My last word is never give up chasing your dreams. It's easy to dismiss ideas as ideas, and looking back again now, I'm like, there's no more rewarding experience than making it on your own terms, and that's what I'm hoping to do with Dice Derbi and its future projects.
All right, thanks a lot, Bryce.
You betcha.
Thanks for sticking with us through this inaugural episode of the Apt To Game Show, and thanks again to Bryce McNally of Big Show Creations for being our first guest and sharing his experience as a game designer. You can find his game Dice Derbi at www.dicederbi.ca. We'll put the links in the doobly-doo.
The doobly-doo.
And that's a quote from Matt Colville. We'll cut that out. I'm going to leave that in as a shout-out to